Guys, welcome to the call. Today, I'm honored and privileged to get to introduce a young lady that's, and the list is long for her. We've silently for years, Rose and I watched her, watch what she did. We tried to mimic what she was doing with her success. Didn't know we were watching, didn't know we were using her. And then later on got the honor to sit in on some stuff and listen to her and get some encouragement, some mentorship and everything else from her. And we've taken that and we've ran. But here's what's crazy. She doesn't get paid for what Rose and I do, but her willingness to go outside of her team to help other people create success says it all. You don't find those people out there in the world too often. If you died with 5 Keri Roeders as friends, you died a rich person, straight up. I see her with her team. I see her giving attitude, her everything about her, and it's just an honor to be able to call her a friend, hang out with her. We're going to be hanging out in Tahoe here in a couple weeks, and that's always such a blessing because you know why? We get more training from her. Okay, and she's here to help you guys, regardless of who you are, where you are, and that's who she is. Okay. And she does this now, guys. She does this because she's a business owner outside of this, and that's where they came from. So talk about that. But to be able to run multiple businesses, probably the hardest business of all is the running of her daughter with volleyball. Now, Miss Roeder's not the tallest lady in the world, but to have a little athlete child that is doing some phenomenal things is awesome. So, but be able to run a family, to run a business, to run a ACN business, to help others is just a blessing. And we can't say, Rose and I can't say thank you enough to Mrs. Roeder. But with that being said, Miss Roeder, go girl, it is all you.
Good morning, everybody. It is early. Yeah. Also, Roeder, wake me up like at 7. And yeah, it's rushing to get on this Zoom call. So good morning, everybody. Mr. and Mrs. King are just 2 of my most favorite people in the whole wide world. It's always so fun to work alongside you and be able to learn from you as well. You 2 are genuinely some of the most amazing people I've had the privilege of meeting and being able to become friends and family with in this ACN opportunity. There's so many blessings, as we all know, that come from being a part of this incredible opportunity and being able to work alongside, learn from, give a little bit of knowledge to. Chris and Rose are it's a privilege and it's just super fun. So everything you've said about me, right back at you. Thoroughly enjoy our time together and everything you do for all of us. You both are just amazing, amazing humans inside and out, inside of ACN and outside of ACN. And inside your hearts and everything that you do for all of us. So good morning, everybody. I'm super excited when Mr. Thomas called me and asked me to do Tuesdays for the month of September. I was just so excited. And I love being a part of these calls and giving an opportunity to share anything I can that might make a difference for even just one of you. To make some progress in this incredible ACN business. And so as usual, I always ask Mr. Thomas, is there anything you want me to talk about? And his answer is always, whatever God says for you to talk about. So today I have 2 things to talk with you about. And then next week, I have something to share with you that I know it for a fact, that if you take heed of the story that I'm going to share next week, that your ACN business will progress and with momentum, just like it did for me. It's a story from my humble beginnings. And so I'm not going to tell it this week just because something else happened. And so I'll share it next week. So if there's anybody on your team that isn't on today, you might want to offer to them that next Tuesday, I have a story for them, for all of you, that again, those of you who listen to the story and understand it will absolutely have massive momentum in your business. So today's 2 topics First topic, I'm actually glad he's not here. So, Mr. Al Thomas, and I see some of you taking notes. Now, I'm glad he's not here and know it's being recorded and he's going to watch it, but I'm glad he's not here, and here's why. We cannot be a prophet in our own lands, right? We've heard that saying before. And those of you who've been around for a minute pre-COVID, know Mr. Thomas like I do as Mr. Thomas. Like, he's Mr. Al Thomas. When we go to events, we see him. It's a little bit like, and I don't get starstruck, you guys. I really don't. But there's just something about Mr. Thomas that makes me just get a little giddy. Like right now, I get the goosebumps. It is 9 a.m. in California. Okay, so let me share with you why. The respect that I have, that my husband has for Mr. Al Thomas, you guys hear us joking, right? Mr. Thomas is like, oh, where's my buddy? And, you know, when COVID hit, for those of you around, we were doing those Friday night things, right? Yeah, that was all happening in the dress and all that. So, but here's why. So some of you remember that. But here's why. When I first got started in ACN in 2010, towards the end of 2010, Mr. Thomas was coming into a humongous Sacramento event, regional event, and I was brand new. My leadership was not in my marketplace, so I was it, woo, right? But what I understood from going to the events every Tuesday and every Saturday, building up to this regional event with Senior Vice President, Mr. Al Thomas, who I didn't know, they did such a good job of creating value for him that I was scared to not participate. So there's like, I hope you're hearing this and maybe even writing that one down. I was scared to not participate in whatever it was this man had to share with us. So what they did was they had coordinated a Friday night leadership. But then after the Friday night general session leadership, I think you had to be an ETL to get in. After that, you had to have accomplished a certain amount of customer points, either for yourself or for the team, in order to qualify to go to an after event. And so this was going to be a late night thing, right? But it was going to be a small, intimate group of people because very few of us worked that hard to get there, okay? But again, I was scared to not participate in everything this man had to offer because I needed ACN to work. At this point, I understood the compensation plan. I saw people making money. I was like, I need this to work for me. Okay. And so I worked my tail off. I qualified to get in. I was so excited. I was so, well, this was before my husband had decided to do ACN with me. Okay, and this was back in the days we were actually dressing to the nines. Men were wearing full suits and ties. Women were wearing the whole getup and our high shoes and full makeup. And we were actually like in a business setting, even on Friday nights, okay? So my husband, I'm going to leave, and he goes, and I talked about Mr. Thomas. And he goes, well, I'm going to go meet this guy. And I'm all, okay, I go, but you can't wear jeans. Like it's ACN, like you don't wear, he's a cowboy, you don't wear anything but jeans. So you can't go because you can't wear jeans. Right? And so short version is I go to get in the car and he comes walking up behind me in his nicest jeans and his nicest shirt. I'm all, what? So we go to Friday night leadership, and funny enough, Mr. Thomas was wearing jeans, but Mr. Thomas's jeans were probably $2,000, and my husband's were Wranglers. So he's wearing jeans. I'm all, slightly different. Anywho, so we go through Friday night leadership. My husband's like, wow. I'm like, oh, no, right. This is a business I've been doing for months, honey. This is so great. I'm like, okay, so yeah, we're gonna be able, we qualified. We get to go to the leadership after this. And he goes, oh, well, how late is it gonna be? And I go, oh, I don't know. It's like 10 o'clock now, so I have no idea. And he goes, oh, I have a concrete pour in the morning at 6 a.m. You jerk, why did you come with me knowing that I had this big thing and now I don't get to go because you need to do concrete in the morning and we live an hour away from Sacramento? So I make my way up to Mr. Thomas and I'm all, hi, Mr. Thomas, my name is Keri Roeder. My leadership isn't here, but just so you know, I qualified to go to the advanced thing. And I know there's only like a small handful of group. I said, but however, my husband decided to come with me, and he has a concrete pour tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and I'm really pissed at him that I can't go listen to you. But I wanted to introduce myself because you're going to get to know me because I'm going to be a leader in this business. So there's another little tip for you. I went up to every leader and said, you're going to get to know me because we're going to be friends because I'm a leader in this business. Okay. So he goes, well, where is he? Right. And so I dragged Brad over and they just chummy it up, right? Mr. Thomas is asking about his concrete pour. Hey, nice jeans, blah, blah, blah. She said I couldn't wear jeans. Like they're doing that whole get to know each other thing. And I'm like, well, I want to go to the thing. Anyway, next day I go to the regional, blah, blah, blah. We go to the next international event. Well, that Friday night sold my husband out. So he decided to start to go to events with me. At the next international event that we went to, he went, my husband did. And as we're going up an escalator, I see Mr. Thomas coming down an escalator. Now, mind you, he met hundreds of people that night, and he meets thousands of people over time, right, between internationals. And as we're coming, I hear this, how'd your concrete pour go? And it was in that moment that I fell in love with Mr. Thomas. I thought to myself, out of all of the people you met, you remember, like it brings tears to my eyes. Now, I share this with you for multiple reasons. All the reasons I said leading up, okay? And that shows the kind of character of who Mr. Thomas is, right? Hard, yeah, you're right. Hard not to love him, right? Shows the character of who he is. He genuinely cares about us. And just like Mr. King said, Mr. Thomas doesn't make any money on helping me in the last 13 years that he has helped me. He doesn't make any profit other than the love that he gets and the good feelings he gets when we get to see each other on retreats, when we get to see each other in leadership things, when he knows that I tell stories about him. And this is why one of my business partners is successful, because of a story I told about him. Now, the reason why I'm glad he's not here today is because I want you to all kind of just step back. And I'm making an assumption, okay? I'm making an assumption. But if you're doing this, let me phrase it this way. If you're doing this, I would please like you to step back for a minute and think about how you can utilize Mr. Thomas as a tool, okay? How can you utilize Mr. Thomas as a tool? Now, if you notice, I call him Mr. Thomas. Now, on the cruise ship last fall, when he and my husband were sharing a cigar at the top of the thing and all that, we call him Al, okay? Actually, I still kind of call him Al to Mr. Thomas, who thinks that it drives him crazy. But how could you use Mr. Thomas as a tool? If you're not using Mr. Thomas as a tool, why are you not using Mr. Thomas as a tool? He is one of the most successful people, not just in ACN, but in network marketing globally. He is documented for his success. So he's documented. He has experienced in the lifestyle that I think most of us, well, we all want to live it, but not all of us are willing to do the work to get there. But he's living that quality of life. And most of you on this call, he has reason to financially gain from you using him as a tool. So Catherine Williams uses him as a tool. She gains success. Mr. Thomas's business increases. He doesn't do it for his own business increase. I think we all know that by now. However, because he helps everybody. However, it does help his family when he helps you. So why not use him as a tool? Why not use him as a third-party tool? However you're going to choose to use him. And when you use him as a tool, are you properly using him as a tool? Are you edifying him appropriately? Are you using the edification tool, right? Talking to the sharks, giving one or two statements about him being a shark, right? International businessman, one of the most successful people, not just in our business, but in the industry. Are you using urgent words like regularly trains in front of tens of thousands of people, has an international business, which by the way, also fits with shark, right? Are you saying things like, he's a man who loves to serve and help every single one of us? So using the whale, right? The whole love thing. And then obviously it's fun, right? The dolphin, one line about him being super fun. And then are you saying, please meet my mentor, Mr. Al Thomas? Or are you going, hey, I got this great guy, Al, he's kind of crazy, goofy, super successful, right? Are you creating value as Al, the great guy we all love and love to hang out with and have a drink by the pool or at the beach? Or are you creating him as a tool to build your business by edifying him and really creating that value for who he truly is? Okay, so if you're not, this is where I'd like you to step back and evaluate what you've been. And I know COVID kind of, we went on Zoom and we got all super casual, but did you notice Chris King called me Mrs. Roeder that entire time? It's funny because actually when we get on the phone, he's like, hi, Mrs. Roeder. But I'm always like, Chris, would you drive me through? Come by my house, let's have a drink, right? So yes, Chris and Rose and Brad and I are very dear friends, very, very dear friends. But in the environment of ACN, I will challenge you to ever hear Chris call me anything other than Mrs. Roeder. So how are you using Mr. Thomas? With COVID going online, I've noticed there's just been a casualness that's happened, right? And so I just would encourage you to take a look at, step back and take a look. How have you been using Mr. Thomas as a tool? If you haven't been using him as a tool, I would suggest you start. And in the format in which I just discussed, if you have been using him as a tool, are you using him? Okay, if you are using him as a tool, are you effective? And if you're not being effective, then evaluate how it is you're using him as a tool and shift it to be more in line with kind of the old school way we build ACN, right? For those of you who've been around a minute, your mentor will teach you that. But when you use him as a tool, like those people did in Sacramento, I was in the crowd in Sacramento in 2010. My mentors weren't there. They were up on that stage creating so much value for this Mr. Thomas. I was afraid to not participate and hear every single word this man had to say. Do you have that fear of loss when you have the privilege of hearing Mr. Thomas speak? Do you have that fear of loss? And if you don't, I suggest you kind of sit back and look at him as a ACN leader, him as a father, as a leader in his community, as a friend. Like really sit back and look at who he is and create your own internal fear of loss. Even if you've had the privilege of going on these leadership retreats with him, like we have. The very first leadership retreat, we were at breakfast, we were in Cayman Islands, and he comes up to me and he has his sign. He's like, Mrs. Roeder, can I get a picture taken with you? I'm all, what? Wait, what, Mr. Thomas? Wait, why are you asking me for a picture? I need to be asking you for a picture, right? When you can create the value for who the man is, I believe that will help you skyrocket your business. Okay. Now, moving on to topic 2, because this just happened this morning. So Mr. Tony Kupitz is one of my mentors, and he taught me years ago. So those of you who have heard me train customer acquisition, you've heard me say this if you're listening, and this is directly from Mr. Tony Kupitz. Okay. So put my customer acquisition training hat on. So we're going over services, and who your customers are. And so he says basically this: listen, you can become your own customer. It's not required, but you can. Now, I know some of you can go out and connect all the services and hit that executive team leader position immediately out of your own household. Don't do that. Only become a customer of the services that make sense to you and your household right now. So that's what Mr. Kupitz taught me to say. And then he said, tell your story. So here's my story. Okay. So only become a customer of the services that make sense to you and your household right now. Now, in my household, when I got started in 2010, because like Mr. King said, I come from traditional business ownership. Okay. It made sense to me to cancel contracts and become a customer of every single service ACN offered, because I know that if I'm going to go out there and acquire customers, I will have an easier time acquiring customer if I am the customer of my own service. Okay. So for example, I owned a concrete company. And some of you have heard me tell the story that my husband, so it was landscape design and construction, concrete construction, landscape maintenance, and a retail plant nursery business. And my husband, extraordinarily talented. Okay. And he comes home creative. Comes home one day, he's all excited. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna build this broken concrete block wall." And he's describing. I'm like, "Oh, that sounds really cool. Can I have one?" Right? I go, "Where are you gonna get the broken concrete?" And he goes, "Oh, from your front walkway." I go, "Oh, okay." The guys are gonna come for the new walkway the next day, right? He goes, "Yeah, we'll get to it." Well, ladies, I don't know if your husbands are like mine. We're gonna get to it means never gonna get done. Okay. So I was all, okay. I go, "Well, here's how this is going to go. Sure, the guys can come take my front walkway tomorrow. And if it's not poured within 3 days, I will call this guy named Todd, who's our one and only competitor, and he really wasn't even our competitor. So I'm going to call Todd and pay him to pour the concrete." He goes, "Well, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. Why would you have that when the guys can do it?" I said, "Exactly. So you will put in my concrete, you will replace it, right? I am not going to pay somebody else to do the work that I'm already paying the guys to do." Okay. That was my mindset as a traditional business owner. So therefore, that was my mindset in becoming an ACN IBO. So the reason why Mr. Tony Kupas taught me to teach you that is if somebody quits or when they quit, right? If you told them they had to get a service, they're going to be, "Oh, Keri made me," right? But if it was their own idea to get their own service and then they quit, well, okay, they're not going to blame the person who told them to do it. Now, the reason why I suggest this is all, we're all IBOs, right? And we're all leaders here. The reason why I suggest that you do become a customer of every single service you're going to choose to market is because it will not only help you in your customer acquisition, it will help you in your customer retention. Okay. Now, choose to market. Well, anytime you're presenting the business, you're marketing all of them. Okay. But let me tell you this. Impact health sharing. If you're not marketing impact health sharing, I don't know what to say. Okay. I'm telling you, it is the one of the, if not the most, besides merchant services, most lucrative service we can offer people. And we're putting value back into their homes by us having to pay less every single month. The reason why I suggest you consider becoming your own impact health sharing customer is so that you know how it works. And I recognize some of you still have full-time jobs and you're only doing this to create some supplemental income. That's great. And if you're going to market health or impact health sharing, I suggest that you at minimum look at the pricing per month to do it as a single person, just for you, the IBO, and the $10,000 deductible. That way you have the bat line in to impact, because here's what happened for me this morning. It's the annual review time, right? Annual stuff, right? So I made my mammogram appointment and I gave them my impact stuff. And the front desk lady was like, "Never heard of it." And I was like, "Get your manager." So the manager comes back. She's like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. Just mark it as blah, blah, blah in the system." Well, I had heard you can call Impact in advance of your medical appointment, and Impact will call them and educate them on what Impact is. Okay. So I was like, okay, no worries. I'll just have Impact call. So I call this morning and I get this woman from Impact. She said, "Yeah, I can call. Who am I going to speak with?" Oh, crapola. I know it's a really big company. Like, can you just call? And I said, "Can you do me a favor after you call and whoever you speak with, can you call me back and give me that name? That way, if there is a problem with the bill." So I was able to have an experience that now, with all of my impact customers I currently have and all of my future impact customers, I can let them know, "Hey, listen, when you go to have a service done and you're going to have Impact call that provider in advance, get the name of the person they need to speak to inside of that provider's office. That way Impact can have a direct conversation and avoid this circle of, who do I talk to? Who do I talk to? Who do I talk to?" See, but if I wasn't my own Impact customer, I would not know that that is a tip to give our customers to have a better fluid experience so that they continue to be happy with Impact and they tell their friends what great health coverage they have at a significantly lower price. That makes sense? Okay. Another example. My mother-in-law calls me the other day. She's our Vivint security customer. She goes, hey, the Vivint guy was here the other day putting in a new doorbell thing. She goes, and he changed my doorbell ring. I don't like it. How do I change it to a different doorbell ring? Well, I have Vivint and I played around. So I was able to go, oh, Mimi, we call her Mimi. It's actually, if you go in your app, you'll be able to find it in there. I was able to let her know where to find it because I am my own customer. Okay. Wireless, right? I have a ton of wireless customers. When something happens, I'm able to give them the answer because I am my own wireless customer through Flash. So hopefully you guys are seeing my point here is that when you are your own customer, you will be able to attract and more importantly retain your customer base because they know you're pouring your own concrete. They know you're eating your own food if you own a restaurant analogy, right? So that is just my suggestion to you is that look at it as from a business perspective. I actually canceled, I was in a security contract for like a little private one here in our community for my household security system. I canceled my contract with him. I paid to get out of that so that I could sign up for the one that ACN was offering because I wanted to be able to acquire my own customers off of that. So customer acquisition is definitely a lead by example part of leadership. Okay. We're all moving towards 200 points, right? And we need 75 personal points in order to make down 5 levels. Well, think about it this way. You getting to at minimum of 75 personal customer points, every new business partner you get started, you can say to them, let me help you max out the overriding residual income and get you to 75, just like me. So it's not any different than your customer saying, hey, are you a customer of that? As a leader in the business, when you can say, I make money all 5 levels down, let me show you how versus let me show you how to do it. I haven't done it myself. Whether you say it or not, they kind of figure that out. Okay. And some of you are like, well, I don't have 5 levels down. Sweet. Get to 75 personal points before you do, and you'll never miss out on overriding residual income. So 928, that is my conversation for today. I'm super excited about next week's conversation. When you hear this story, I really know that those of you who hear the story and hear it for the value that it is, it will help you move and have progress in your ACN opportunity. So, Mr. Thomas, because I know you're watching, love you. Thank you for the opportunity. And Mr. Chris King, you and Rose, as you know, are 2 of my most favorite people in this entire world outside of ACN too. I appreciate all the kind words that you say about me and that you always say about me. You're always so sweet and you always take such good care of me. So I'm going to turn the call back to you and I hope everybody has a blessed day. So my mentor in business and life just recently passed and he always says this, life is about family, friends, and helping others. And just imagine if you share this ACN opportunity with other people, how you could be helping others that you didn't know were praying and begging for their lives to change. So now I'm going to turn the call back to you, Mr. King. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.